Hi, this is Mike, WB4HUC, and I just wanted to make a short video of how I start all the software that I use to run the station. So if you watched any of my other videos, you know that I use the N4PY Pegasus Plus software to run the radio. That software talks to a lot of other software to run other things. So I was just going to sort of make this little video just to show the startup sequence of everything here. So I come into the room and I'll turn the power supplies on, then I'll turn on the radio, the amp, the tuner, watt meter, all the other pieces of equipment that need to be physically powered on, and then I'll start the software. So the first software I start is the Pegasus Plus software. And in the Pegasus Plus software, you can see this little window here for the Elecraft KPA 500 amplifier. So I can power the amplifier on or off. I can put it into operate or standby mode. This little window will display the operating temperature of the amp. And then if the amplifier generates any fault codes, they'll show up here. And then you can click this button to clear those codes. So you can operate the amplifier from this window inside the Pegasus Plus software. And then, of course, the rest of the control panel is for the Omni 7. Then the next thing I'll start is the SDR Uno software. I have an SDR Play RSP1A receiver that I use to generate the pan adapter. And the way that it's connected to the Omni 7, it shares the Omni 7's antenna, but for receive only. So that receiver is protected from the Omni 7's transmitter. So I don't have to do anything special to keep the transmitter in the Omni 7 from blowing up the RSP1A. So when I start, I have two of these receivers. So when I start, I get my choice. So we'll choose the RSP1A, and then the software will start. And then the first thing I do is I will widen this out. So there's a lot of activity here. Well, actually, there's a lot of that's shortwave broadcast, I suppose. There's a lot of activity here. So let's zoom this out into something reasonable. And so here we have a lot of stuff. But if I put this about in the middle, I can even zoom out some more. And so now you can really see all these separate CW signals. And then this one, I'll zoom out a little bit. So for instance, if I wanted to zero beat this guy, I would just click here, and now he's almost zero beat, pretty close. But it looks like there's a couple of signals inside this filter bandwidth. So anyway, that's how that works. And then I will just minimize this display. And then the next thing I'll start is the watt meter display. I have a Telepost LP100A watt meter, and using this I can read the output of that watt meter without having to take my eyes off the screen. And then the last piece I start is my logging software. It's the Logic version 10. And just because my brain works the way it does, I'll widen this out to close that little gap. So this is it. This is how I run the software. So I can log, and when I log, I'll get the mode and frequency from the Omni 7. If I change anything in here, it'll change here. If I change anything here, it'll change here, and it'll also change here. So the Pegasus Plus software will talk to these other two and keep everything in sync. And this one's a little slower. I don't really ever change frequency up here, but if I did, you can see there's a tiny bit of lag here, but not much. But I don't ever do that. So these are almost instantly communicated to the other softwares if I change from here or from here. And then one last thing I'll mention is the remote tuning encoder, the Model 302R remote tuning encoder. So I have my webcam aimed at it, looking down from the top. and it's sitting sort of off to my side, so when my hand comes into the frame, it's going to come in from the left, not from the bottom. But using the N4PY software, all of the buttons on the remote tuning encoder are programmable except the enter key. So you can assign different functions to each of these other buttons, and if you do it right, and by right, I mean if you set it up for the way that you operate, you can almost operate the radio without having to touch the computer mouse. Not quite, but almost. And you can operate the radio without having to touch the front panel. So the normal function for the remote tuning knob is for the VFO, and that's reflected here in this little legend that says VFO-A. So if I reach over and turn the knob, you'll see the VFO change, and you'll see in the SDR Uno display, and you'll see in the logic logging display, you'll see it keep up as we make the changes. And if I click, you'll see it also changes. So all of these pieces of software will communicate with each other. And so that's the VFO function. If I, for instance, push the 8 key, that's the RF gain. And you'll see the RF gain legend here. And as I turn the knob, you'll see the RF gain slider increasing or decreasing in value. If I press the 7 button, that's the volume. And then you'll see the volume increase or decrease. 5, for instance, is filter. So the legend changes to indicate filter. And then when I turn the knob over here, you'll see the filter widths increase or decrease depending on which way I turn the knob. I usually run at about 600 or 500 hertz. And, you know, if it's a really crowded band like it appears to be now, I might narrow it all the way to 200 hertz, which is as narrow as the DSP filters on the Omni 7 will go. So that's the remote tuning knob. And if you operate your Omni 7 through software, I don't know what the status of Gen-Tech is these days. They're in business. I don't think they're selling anything. But if you can find a Model 302 encoder and you're running the radio from software, I would encourage you to get one if you can find one. Otherwise, you can tune with the mouse, so you can't see it, but I'm scrolling the mouse wheel, and you can see that wherever I put the cursor, that's the digit that changes. So if I go down to 1 hertz increments, then I can change any of these, and everything keeps up, as we've already talked about. So that's pretty much, it doesn't take that long to get all this stuff up and running. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to minimize this one, but I'm going to stop all of these, and then I'm going to start them again without a lot of commentary, just to show you sort of how quickly I can really do this. So we're going to start over from the beginning. So here's the Pegasus Plus and the SDR Uno. Choose the radio. Zoom out. Zoom this one out. Start the watt meter display. Start the logging software. And then, like I said, I just widen this out to close that gap. And again, if you want to see it, there's the tuning encoder. So that's it. That didn't take very long at all, like a minute and a half. I didn't count, but it was very quick. And then we can minimize this, and we have these two. And of course, these windows can be moved around, resized, whatever. This is comfortable for me. I keep the monitor close enough that I can see it without having to squint. So this is all comfortable for me. And that's it. So just a quick video to show how I start up all the software that I use to run the station. And again, if I want to operate digital modes, I can crank up WSJTX or FLDigi or whatever digital mode program I want to use. There's a SignalLink USB sound card plugged into the back of the Omni 7 that's used for digital modes, and that's already been adjusted and set up and everything. So it's ready to go. So it doesn't take long at all to do that either. In any case, that's how I start the station when I'm ready to operate in whatever mode I want to use, phone, digital, CW. So I hope if this hasn't been particularly useful to you, at least hopefully it's been a little bit interesting. And thank you for watching.